saw the thumbnail, you saw the title, and of course you might have already thought to yourself, well, at least one baseball organization had some common sense and basically said no to this stuff. However, the situation's a little bit more complicated than you might would think, so make sure you guys stick around for the full video. But allegedly, or, well, let's just go ahead and say it, the Texas Rangers basically said no to a Pride night. As a matter of fact, the Texas Rangers baseball franchise basically said no to Pride as a whole because they realized that there are other things that you can do than, let's just say, shoving something in front of people's faces. However, we got to talk about how it was that we got here, and we also have to talk about exactly what's really going on in this case, and at the same time, we've also got to talk about why it is that this right here is quite frankly, not just detrimental to the game of baseball itself, the franchises, but also to the country as a whole. So make sure you guys listen to the full video. So, of course, most of you by now know about the LA Dodgers. Most of you guys know about the whole incident with the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of you guys know about the protest that did in fact occur. Now, guys, I'm going to play something for you, roughly about a minute and a half. It's from a channel called iTalk Studios. The full video will be in the description box. iTalk is a pretty good channel. I watch him from time to time. I don't think he gets too political. I've never actually caught where he did. I think he's just a good old-fashioned baseball channel. Tries to keep it strictly to sports. He mentioned a couple of things in here, but I'm not going to sit here and go off on this guy because I think this guy, for the most part, is pretty well fair in his overall assessment. Let's just want to kind of recap how things are going, and then we'll get to the Rangers in a second.
LGBTQ community and Pride Month has become very mainstream and pushed on to everybody. Whether you love it or whether you hate it, that's just what it's become, almost like a trend. In fact, it basically is a trend at this point in a sense where big corporations like Major League Baseball and its teams feel a lot of pressure to honor people's sexuality and please certain people because they don't want to face any backlash. The Dodgers had to deal with some of that this year, inviting, disinviting, and then re-inviting a controversial LGBTQ group that many find mocks Catholicism. The Dodgers faced backlash from Christians, then the LGBTQ community, and then Christians again when they invited the group back to their Pride night that just recently took place. Even some of their own players have spoken out against the group, with a name as big as Clayton Kershaw coming out and voicing that he doesn't agree with the group and the Dodgers' decision to honor them, but is happy the team is going to be hosting a Christian family and faith day at the ballpark this season. So the Dodgers clearly panicked and did everything they could to try and please everyone. But in today's world, it's very hard to please everybody, and that's because it's impossible. You can be the nicest person ever, and
really quick, we did find this out recently about the Dodgers. Apparently, they relented and eventually reached a bit of a deal on a Christian family night thing. But I think at this moment in time, I think the damage has already been done, just saying. So let's go ahead and basically recap this situation. So basically what happened was the Dodgers said, no, you're not allowed here. Obviously, the Dodgers were thinking about their fan base, and then out of the middle of nowhere, this group, they decided to get upset, and of course, the Dodgers, they reversed their decision. Eventually, protests show up. We talked about this in a previous video, how it was that a lot of people said to hell with this, and they just decided not to watch the game. They stood outside and protested, actually blocked an entrance, and then out of the middle, I said entrance, but of course it sounded like interest, which, by the way, you guys can make whatever you want to about it. Obviously, my voice is not exactly working the way I thought it would, but I need to get out here because I need to put as many videos as I can out here during this very, very weird time, this very weird transition in this office and everything, and, of course, all the busy stuff. I'll show you guys some pictures in a second. But obviously, the Dodgers organization, they basically cucked. Now, of course, they were called up by Clayton Kershaw. They were eventually called up by Blake Trinan. We were all waiting for Julio Urias to say something because he's Hispanic and he's also Catholic. And, of course, nothing really and truly came of this, at least nothing that was headline-worthy or anything that was noteworthy at the time. Other players around the league have actually voiced their frustration. There was the situation in Toronto. Now, guys, the reason why I didn't cover the player in Toronto getting released over clapping back, and, of course, he also bowed to the mob, was because that story just kind of came and went, and it just kind of went under my nose, and I apologize not for covering that, but at the same time, he had like an ERA of like over 5, even though he shouldn't have been cut over what he said. It seems to me the way Canada is getting that they're just looking for anybody and everybody to just scapegoat on just about any issue at all, especially with all the nonsense that they have going on in that country there, but I'll digress for the purpose of this video. So basically, as you guys know, what eventually happened was that people protested, and of course the Dodgers, they gave this group an actual award. Dodgers, of course, they got swept. that series by the Giants. Don't get me started on the Giants because San Francisco is another woke bunch. Of course, they've got the whole pride thing in their logo for their Twitter handles for the team. But then we get to the Rangers. Now, the Rangers are the only team right now on record that has not had a Pride Night at all. As a matter of fact, the Rangers, when they were approached about Pride Night last year, this is what they did. They honored Charlie Pride, a black country music singer, on Pride Night, which was actually pretty cool. Now, iTalk Studios did a lot more research on this, and I'll let you guys be the judge, but we'll come across on the other side. Let's go ahead and finish
this
up.
month while they don't have one. Why is that? Well, first there's the obvious reason. It's Texas, a place that tends to be more conservative, and I don't think many people there want to have people's sexuality being promoted everywhere they look, including a baseball field where they want to watch baseball. That's just how it tends to be in Texas. But what are some of the other reasons for it? Well, back in 2020, Rangers COO Neil Liebman spoke to the Dallas Morning News and pointed out the changes made to the organization that he believes go further than simply having a Pride Night, saying, quote, "With respect to Pride Night, we reached out to the Resource Center and said, what can we do internally? We immediately adopted some changes they suggested to be more inclusive in hiring practices. I think that's more meaningful than just saying, okay, we had a Pride Night," end quote. And in a more recent statement made by the team when asked by the LA Times about not having a Pride Night, the Rangers said, quote, "Our commitment is to make everyone feel welcomed and included in Rangers baseball. That means in our ballpark, at every game, and in all we do, for both our fans and our employees. We deliver on that promise across many programs to have a positive impact across our entire community," end quote. The Rangers made sure to also add that they do help support the LGBTQ plus community in various ways, including sponsorship of the NAGAAA Gay Softball World Series last year, as well as the development of an Inclusion and Community Impact Council. The website, the Texas Family Project, recently put out an article in support of the Rangers being the lone team without a Pride Night, saying, quote, "People are tired of having Pride-themed merchandise and branding shoved in their faces by every company, organization, and sports franchise. People just want to watch baseball. To the vast majority of fans, Rangers' decision to buck the trend of celebrating sexuality is a breath of fresh air," end quote. Will the Rangers eventually feel pressured enough to have a Pride Night? Maybe. Maybe there will be a time when that happens. But that time will not be now, as the organization is sticking by their stance that they can support the LGBTQ community without also promoting it on.
In the remainder of that video there, iTalk would also state exactly what we, if you keep it with baseball, you might already know. The Rangers are currently in first place, and I don't think that after, let's just say after seeing what happened to the Dodgers, just go ahead and say God obviously does not like the woke. I just figured I'd throw that out there. Not like saying that has anything to do with it or anything. I'm just saying that obviously iTalk was picking up on something. Texas is much, much more conservative. Texas, of course, does not actually go for this type of thing. Houston, of course, I'm not entirely sure exactly how liberal, how conservative it is. Judging by the voter numbers, it seems to me the trends have actually been shifting it more to the right, so it makes you wonder when that organization is going to finally put their foot on the ground. As a matter of fact, it's actually very weird how it is that Houston is actually swinging further to the right, where Dallas is swinging further to the left, which, by the way, the Rangers play technically in Irving, or it's right outside, Arlington. They play technically in Arlington. As a matter of fact, Globe Life Field is right across the road from AT&T Stadium. I went to AT&T Stadium back in 2019 to watch the Packers and the Cowboys play. So that stadium was being built at that moment in time. That area of Texas, well, actually, the area in Arlington is actually pretty well conservative, but obviously the city that's closest to it would be the city of Dallas. Dallas is pretty well liberal. It's just very, very weird dichotomy, very weird way they've kind of got that thing set up there. So basically, the Texas Rangers, they have been doing other things to kind of help out with that community, help out with that organization, which, by the way, I'm beginning to get tired of using the phrase community, but then again, that we have to find ways of kind of dressing things up so that way we don't get in trouble here on this platform. Don't worry, I'll create a Rumble channel or another Rumble channel here soon, so make sure you guys stick around for that. I'll give you guys some details on that. But here's the thing. The Rangers have obviously been finding other ways to get money out there so that way they meet the ESG requirements, which makes you also wonder at the same time, do other ball clubs need to actually do this? Well, I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now. Other ball clubs do not need to throw this type of messaging or this type of lifestyle on their fans and actually take it as some form of being proud or honoring basically a way of life. I don't think it's a good idea. It's obviously detrimental to the country. I've done several videos on this, on why it is that this is actually quite a blasphemous. I have to say it that way for the algorithm. And of course, it's extremely divisive. It's extremely divisive like crazy. Look, check this right out. Let me give you guys a quick example. Okay, just kind of like switch gears for a second. I got into it on Twitter with somebody pretty famous today. Of course, I'm just kind of putting some of these tweets up here. Of course, it was about the whole thing about Confederate statues. They were talking about Juneteenth, stuff like that. In my personal opinion, I've told you guys before what I think about Juneteenth. Juneteenth, for the most part, was a Texas-Oklahoma holiday, primarily just celebrated in that area of the country. Now, should it have been made a holiday in 2020 or 2021? I know that Trump talked about making a holiday. I didn't actually agree with him then, but not because I didn't think it should not be a holiday, but because I think the holiday should have been created a long time ago if you were going to make it a nationwide holiday, if you were going to. Probably right around the time of the Civil Rights Act, stuff like that. Maybe you should have done it then, so that way we ain't got to fight about this during this extremely divisive time in country. It could have just been made, and people could have just walked away, and it would have been all fine and dandy. And I've also told you that I think it's nothing more than a great big giant sales gimmick, which is exactly what I think this whole pride thing is. It's a great big giant sales gimmick. Honor one group of people to try to get some additional cash. The problem is that you're pandering to this extremely small group, and you're boxing out the additional 70 to 80% that actually watch and actually like your product. I don't know if you know this or not, but baseball, the audience itself, is roughly about 75 to 80% white males. Obviously, you're going to have some white women in there, especially wives or women out there who do actually like baseball. I've dated a couple of them. Of course, they never worked out or anything, but still at the same time, your audience typically tends to be white and relatively conservative, moderate to conservative, not very many left-leaning baseball fans out there. And there definitely aren't any in that rainbow color rainbow coalition that are in fact baseball fans. Speaking of that rainbow coalition, most of the people that are not white that do like baseball are usually Hispanic. Most black people don't really care for baseball that much. You see, the reason why this is a problem is that baseball is hurting as it is, not just at the ticket box, not just at the stadium, especially as far as it comes to merchandise. It's also hurting on television. You're not getting baseball games out there like you normally would. It used to be that you would have ESPN would have Sunday night baseball, and typically it would be a rivalry game. A lot of Yankees-Red Sox games were played on that night. Then you would get Wednesday night baseball. Then they had Wednesday and Tuesday night baseball. Then you think you had ABC Family at one point in time would have a ball game on Saturday night. Then you had a ball game, of course, on Fox, which typically came on Saturday afternoon. And sometimes they would do a double header, even sometimes on Saturday night. They're not doing that as much anymore. It typically would start sometime in April, and it would go all the way through the remainder of the regular season. But baseball, of course, is slowly but surely being phased out. It's America's pastime, national pastime. And for whatever reason, they don't want to air it. Now you got to go to Apple TV to get all the games. You got to go to Bally Sports, which, by the way, you've got to actually order to actually get the ball game. And obviously, the sport itself has been dying for a while. When you topple this on top, when you put this on top of this whole notion of this whole pandering, and you actually throw that out there and put it on top of everything that's going on, it's eventually going to create a problem. However, I think I know the real reason why they're actually doing this. It's almost like they're trying to incite or entice somebody. But we're going to be talking a little bit more about that in my follow-up video for tomorrow. With that there being said, before I end this video, I need to go ahead and just give you guys some heads up. These are some pictures of the area. Just to let you guys know, I've been really busy, and I've been outside the house trying to acquire this stuff. What happened was the money didn't hit today, but it's going to hit tomorrow. So there's not going to be any time to film any videos tomorrow, at least until tomorrow night. So you're going to get 3 videos, well, really 4 if you count the alternate video that I have on short timer prepping, explaining this whole gun brace nonsense. That will be on short timer prepping tomorrow to go along with 3 videos on this platform here. One of the videos that's been coming out tomorrow, of course, is kind of a follow-up to this one here, or a spiritual sequel about the whole thing about Christian nationalism and what to expect in 2024 on how the media is going to label everything. Fact of the matter is that, just to go ahead and kind of conclude that the Texas Rangers did in fact say no to the whole Pride Night thing, but at the same time, that does not mean that, and like I said, this right here could go either way. I personally think that if you want to support something like that, you don't need to put it and plaster it everywhere and force it upon people. There's obviously things that you can, in fact, do internally without coming off like, well, let's just go ahead and face it. It's pretty obvious that the business corporations who are pushing this are all just a bunch of woke commies and fascists. Guys, John Claymore here. If you guys like this content, please hit the like button, subscribe. Share the video, sound off in the comment section. I would love to get you guys' thoughts. If you think I earned your subscription, please hit the notifications bell. Please sub, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys later.